10x your service design offering with Smapply. Take 20% off any order with This Is HCD 20 off. Let's superpower you and your design team's potential. Sign up at smapply.app. Enjoy the episode from your friends at Smapply, helping support This Is HCD podcast.
Hey folks, and welcome to This Is HCD. Now before we dive into today's conversation, I want to invite you personally to sign up for my free email course for designers who are frustrated by roadblocks and are ready to create a human-centered workplace. If this sounds like you, well, I can tell you now that it's packed full of practical insights and tips to help you grow in your design career. The link is below in the description. And also, if you enjoy the show, please do like, subscribe and leave a review on your favourite podcast platform. Your support helps us reach more people and grow the community. Now, let's get into today's episode. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Jill Schulman to the podcast, and Jill is a leadership expert with a fascinating background as a United States Marine Corps officer and founder of Breakthrough Leadership Group, where she helps organizations develop their leaders through the science of bravery and positive psychology. Now, in this episode, we explore really what it truly means to be brave in the workplace, how organizations can foster bravery through psychological safety, and why bravery isn't about being fearless, it's about taking action despite that fear. Now, Jill also shares powerful insights from her upcoming book, The Science of Bravery, and explains how mindset, action, and relationships form the foundation of courageous leadership. So this is a perfect episode for anyone in design leadership. Let's jump straight in. Well, Jill Schulman, I am delighted to have you on the podcast. A very warm welcome to This Is HCD, Jill. Maybe we'll start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm based in the U.S. in sunny Southern California. That's where I live. I ended up landing here. I grew up in the Midwest in the U.S. in Minnesota, where it's really freaking cold. Right? So I got smart and I thought I want to live somewhere a little bit warmer. But I started my career as a United States Marine Corps officer. So I started my career in the military, and that brought me down to San Diego. I went to school and I was stationed for a majority of my time in. And then when I decided to get out of the Marine Corps, I went to corporate America. My joke is I started by blowing stuff up for a living. Like literally that's what my Marines did. We demolitions. And then I decided to sell drugs, the legal kind. So I got into the pharmaceutical industry and, absolutely loved that industry. I was in sales, sales leadership for a number of years, fell in love with science. And the reason I do what I do now is even though I thought I knew everything about leadership, I went through a lot of leadership development classes because I was with a big Fortune 100 company, and they had such a profound impact on me. Like I realized I wasn't the great leader that I thought I was. And so I ended up, starting a business called Breakthrough Leadership Group. So now my company, does leadership development for organizations. Just because it had that profound impact on me, I love doing that for others. And now I have a specific focus on positive psychology and specifically the science of bravery. After I've had my company for about 9 years, I'm always a science geek. I'll be citing studies. So sorry, I should get some nerd glasses on. But I wanted to keep learning myself and growing myself. So I went back to school and I just decided to study, really the science of happiness and well-being, but specifically applied to the business environment. Okay. And, learned so much about what I can bring back to organizations. And then I ended up being interested in doing my deep dive into my studies on how bravery is a skill that can be developed. And when people do, it leads to greater levels of success, but more importantly, higher levels of life satisfaction, well-being, and happiness. So that's a little intro on me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's talk about bravery in the workplace. Okay. Bravery usually is associated, as you mentioned, like you're ex-Marine Corps, in war, in systems with kind of potential harm. Why do you feel it's important for workers who are trying to earn to be brave?
Well, let's define bravery first, because I know what you're describing is what everyone thinks. I mean, everyone thinks like bravery, that's like running into a burning building or signing up and charging into battle, right? And first of all, that is brave. I mean, those are courageous, amazing heroes that are doing that work, which is awesome. But bravery is bigger than just those examples. Bravery is defined as not being fearless. And that's the mistake people make. They're like, oh, like someone's brave. They just don't have any fear, right? Actually, the definition of bravery, and this really comes from Dr. Cynthia Puri, that comes from Clemson University, one of the bravery experts in the world. It's taking action in the presence of fear, right? And then towards something that aligns with your values or aligns with your intrinsic goals. So let's go back to the work environment.
Yeah.
Let's say someone really does want to maybe change roles, move up, step up, put their name in the hat to become a leader. There's fear there, right? Like, will I be good enough? Like, is it going to be okay? So fear holds them back from maybe taking a step forward into, getting a promotion. Many times people have a fear of having a difficult conversation, right? Like, oh, I don't want to talk to the person. Like, I'm just going to things are really bad and it's miserable and there's a lot of tension here, but I'm scared to have a conversation. So really, like, there's so many things in life where we let fear hold us back from doing the very thing that is going to make things better. So there's so many different applications of, what I call the skill of bravery. That applies in the work environment, like even taking risks, like, innovation and taking risks. I mean, this is a critical business skill, that companies need people to be able to do, is like come up with new ideas and try them out. Right. But why do people not? Because there's that fear and fear is a good thing for us humans. I mean, we are wired. The reason why we survived is because we have this fear instinct, right? But there are no saber-toothed tigers chasing us down, right? So sometimes there's fear and it's a signal that we should run away, like a saber-toothed tiger. But there are so many things in modern life that happen and we have this fear response and it causes us to run away or not want to face it. And it's just in our mind. It's not a real, fear. So.
So when you look at bravery in the context of the workplace, right? What are the factors from an organizational perspective that allow people to become brave? Because in my experience, not every organization has the cultural setup to allow people to step up to be brave. Like, and we're thinking Western here, but also like in other territories and other cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at, cultures like in the Middle East, how do you enable people to be brave? And if everyone becomes brave, then what happens?
Well, that would be, I think that would be a good situation, as long as it's the right type of bravery, right? Which is people identifying what's a goal that's important to me or a goal that's important for my team and my organization to be able to achieve. And then I'm going to be brave enough to go after it and achieve it. Or I have something personally important to me that aligns with my values. And there's action I need to take to be consistent with my values. And if I take action, so if everyone is brave, our world is going to be a better place. But let's talk about like the workplace, because what you're really tapping into is culture and like specifically psychological safety. Amy Edmondson from Harvard University is a leading researcher and writer and speaker on psychological safety. So organizations, leaders have an obligation to try to create a psychologically safe environment. And a psychological safety is creating an environment where people feel comfortable asking questions, bringing up concerns, sharing their ideas, or even admitting mistakes without the fear of embarrassment or humiliation or punishment, right? So an organization, and specifically each leader, has an obligation to create psychological safety. And there's things that they can do to do that. And they should be doing that. So that is, first and foremost. But on the other side is individuals need to step up and have some courage. Sometimes a leader can try to create a psychologically safe environment, but someone just still, they let fear hold them back and they just don't want to. So there's two sides of the same coin here. In organizations, we need to create an environment so that people can feel safe and they can be brave and be courageous. So we need the culture piece, but we need to train individuals to be self-leaders. This is really self-leadership. Like, don't just sit in the corner and be scared. Like, I need you to take a step forward, right? I need you to raise your hand and share your idea or your concern. That's really important. And I know there's some fear there, but you holding it back is not good for you. It's not good for the organization. It's not good for our business, and it's not good for our customers. So if you just focus on climate or culture in the organization without training people how to build more bravery, we're missing out. So it's two sides.
Okay. So when you look at it from the two sides, let's talk about, because I know you've got a book, but we'll come to that in a second. But what are the things that you look at from an employee's perspective that they need to do? Like, what you talk about the science of bravery. So, like, what are the ingredients to get to that point?
Yeah, great question. So, from an individual perspective, and this is all in my book that's coming out in July, and it's actually written as a parable. It's written as a parable, and it's funny because you just said that the character is in an environment where it's not that great, but he has to learn skills of being brave. So there's three dimensions. There's three, and these are all evidence based. So that's the one thing about me is you're not going to just get Jill as a United States Marine saying, do this to be brave. Like, no one cares like what my experience is. What hopefully people care about is, what does the evidence tell us? So there are three things based on the science of bravery, the science based on, psychology, neurology, social, sociology, these things that we know work. So the three dimensions are, first, we've got to teach the individual how to develop a brave mindset. So it goes just into mindset. And I'm sure your audience has heard there's a lot of people that talk about mindset, but it starts with mindset. So what I teach in my courses, and it's also, in the book, is growth mindset based on Carol Dweck's work from Stanford, believing that you can develop skills, that it's possible for you to achieve a goal, versus a fixed mindset. Fixed mindset is, I couldn't do that. That's impossible. That would be an example of a fixed mindset. People don't even think it's possible for them to be able to develop a skill or to be able to achieve a goal. Sure. If you don't believe that you can, you'll be right. Right? Or if you believe that you can, you're probably right. So we first work on mindset. So we lean on Carol Dweck's research in teaching the power of a growth mindset and how to do that. But in addition, we talk about, we help people understand that challenges and stress are enhancing versus debilitating. I could spend an hour on a podcast on each of these, and I don't want to do that. But a lot of people think like the reason why they want to stay in the safe zone is because they don't want any adversity and they don't want any stress, because isn't stress bad? No, it's not. There's a lot of research, around how do you change people's mindset and saying, if I try to do something that has some risk or something that's challenging, that stress along the way is going to make me stronger. So we talk about the evidence-based, tools and things that we can do to build that mindset. And then in addition, we teach them on the mindset pieces, how to generate the positive emotions that will fuel their success toward achieving their goals. Many people think that they're victims of their emotions. That's bull. I don't want to say it.
It's fine.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Like, don't be a victim. Like, I teach people, I challenge people and hold them accountable. Like, I understand that you're experiencing emotions, right? Yeah. We have to be curious about our emotions. They're there for a reason, but we have the choice to be aware of our emotions, but we can change our emotional state in order to best serve ourselves, our goals, our companies. So I teach them how to do that. It's all of Barbara Fredrickson's work. She wrote a book called Positivity. And then the last thing is, this is where we get really deep, which is, talking about the voice in our heads, the chatter. What are the things that we're telling ourselves? It matters. If you have a voice inside of your head, Gerry, and you're saying like, I suck, I'm never gonna be able to do this. This is gonna crash and burn. That is not very helpful to you. So you need to stop doing that, right? Now there are things that we teach in psychology to be able to change the dialogue in our head. So all of that is around, we have to master your mindset. And that's a big part of self-leadership. And we don't do that. We don't do that in organizations a lot. I know I was in corporate America. I work in clients all the time in corporate America. How many companies spend time teaching people how to get their mindset right to achieve more and be more successful. It doesn't happen a lot. We need to do it more because that is the root cause that people don't take the action, right? So I spend a lot of time on mindset, and my audiences and clients, they just have breakthroughs when we just go there. But that's just one dimension. And then we have brave action. So we teach people how to align their actions with their intentions to achieve high quality goals. So we do things like goal setting, implementation intentions, how to have extreme, what I call ruthless planning, prioritization, and focus. A lot of things on productivity, habits. And these are just things that people have to build these practices. And with time, they can do that. And the third dimension is brave relationships. Surrounding yourself with the people that can help you accomplish those challenging goals, to be brave. So if people have the mindset, they take the action, and they're surrounded by people that are going to support them on the journey to accomplish hard things, then they are unstoppable. And it's those three things that really work in tandem, the three things together that really accelerate, results.
So going back to the piece of those three things that you were talking about here, of what they need to, the mindset being critical. Okay, so if you look at that from the employee perspective, what can leaders take away from this, where they have to maybe change the mind shift of thousands of people working in large organizations, where historically they might have been led by fear, they might have been led by a kind of a dictator kind of hierarchy, and they don't want to step out of line. And suddenly now they're being told by Jill Schulman's book that's been sold and brought into the office that they need to step up. There's like a dissonance there between the two worlds, where, one thing their training is, but the culture says another. What do you say to leaders out there who want to instill and create safer workplaces?
So when it comes to leadership development to create this, I want to start off by saying that for many leaders out there, they're not leading the right way, and it's not their fault. Leaders many times are promoted to a leadership position because they are the best person at the technical skill. So then they get promoted to a leadership position, but no one teaches them how to do that job. Leading people is a completely different job, right? And many times, because they are experts in doing the technical thing, and there's a lot of pressure on them, they just naturally drive their people crazy by micromanaging and putting pressure on them. So we as organizations have to teach leaders how to do their job. And that is no longer doing the technical thing. It's motivating, inspiring people to perform at their best. And that is where the Science of Bravery comes in. So, I'm really focusing now on how do I teach individuals how to be braver? Like, take control of your success in your career, even if you have a bad boss, right? Like, are you going to let that one bad boss, if they don't have the training, dictate your career success? So I teach those, the individual contributors, like those self-bravery. But then if you go up to the leadership level, then we do the same thing. We teach leaders, how do you create self-belief and self-confidence in your employees to accomplish their challenging goals? So it's like all the three things I talked about in terms of, how do you help people from a psychological point of view so they're optimistic and motivated to achieve the goals, right? And leaders absolutely have an ability to do that. Number two, leaders have to enable their employees to be able to take brave action. So are we removing obstacles? Are we asking our employees, like, what do you need from me so that you can accomplish the challenging goals that are going to make a difference to our customers, right? So we should be asking those questions, not like, what are you doing wrong? And we should be asking, what do you need from me to enable you to be able to accomplish your challenging goal, right? So, I'm a big fan of servant leadership. I use that term a lot when I speak to audiences. Like, instead of thinking like I'm the boss, so you're here to serve me. If that is your mindset as a leader, just, please just put your hand up and smack yourself in the head, because that you're doing it wrong. Like, that is the wrong mindset as a leader. We should have a mindset that we are here to best serve our people so that they can learn, grow, succeed, and win. And there's many evidence-based, leadership behaviors that can do that. And just the last thing to, I guess, round out my model, what a leader can do is, leaders need to be available to their people So when they're going through challenges to accomplish, their goals for the company, for the customer, you got to be there to support them, because you know what success looks like? A lot of people think that success is, you set a goal and then, do your planning and you're just skipping along, rainbows and butterflies, and everything is just going to happen perfectly. Well, if they're a really challenging goal, there's going to be challenges along the way. So when your people are going through the ups and downs, when they get to the downs, you've got to be available. That's your job. And don't think that you have to have all the answers. You need to teach your people to have a tribe of people. I call it the brave tribe. Like, you should be one of them as a leader, but who are other people that your employees can reach out to? So they've got multiple people that can support their success, and it's teaching people to be brave enough to admit they don't have the answer or admit that they need help. So, we spend time with the teams and also the leaders to say, like, you want to be brave. You want to be a badass. I want you to tell me what's going well, but I want you to tell me where you're struggling. If we can create vulnerability or, people being transparent, right? That just builds trust within the team. And then, imagine how much faster we're going to be able to operate, how much more successful our teams are going to be if people actually go to work and say, you know what, I'm not really sure about this. Can anyone help me out? Right.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about, creating that environment in teams.
I coach designers and I coach innovators in senior leadership positions. And I know of several instances where toxicity is at play in many people's lives. And one of the coaches' big thing was just putting their hand up to say that this isn't okay. And told senior execs about this situation, only to find themselves unsupported by the senior execs, ultimately leading to them having to leave the organization as a result. But when you hear these situations, I'm really cautious to promote, too much of a reckless approach of saying, like, we all need to be brave, we need to step up. In some instances, those organizations, just you're so advanced. What do you say to people in those situations that they do find themselves in systems of toxicity?
Yeah.
And we're promoting something that could be quite radical for them.
Right. I don't want people to get fired if they're supporting their family. So
yeah.
Great question. I love the challenge here. First of all, there's a way to do it. I don't want you to walk into your boss and say,
with a gun, falling dead.
With a gun. Don't do that. And don't.
I'm taking that bit out. Sorry.
You don't want to walk like into your boss's office and say, like, you're doing it wrong. This is the stupidest idea ever. Like, that is probably not going to go well. So we teach people how to bring up their concerns in a respectful, but also, advocating for their point of view. So we train them how to do that. And you always have to lead with, your pure purpose. So in the model that I teach, on delivering feedback, it's called poise. So I'll give this little gift to everyone. Anytime you need to, share something with a boss or a cross-functional counterpart or a spouse or even an employee, just deliver whatever you need to say with poise. Right. And this will give you more confidence. So you got to open up the P in poise. There's actually 2 P's, is open up with your pure purpose. Like, what is the purpose? Why are you sharing your opinion on this? And then ask permission. So I might say to you, Gerry, like, I really care so deeply about the success of this project. I know it's so important to our company and for our team. And because I care so much about contributing to the success, there's something I noticed that I think might get in the way of the project being a success. Do you mind? Can I share my observation?
Okay, that's permission.
So that's so I did my purpose, my pure purpose, like, I care, I'm trying to be helpful, and then permission. Then the leader will say, well, yeah, like, what is it? And then we go into the O is the observed behavior. Try to do it objectively, right? Just like, here's something I noticed. So it's got to come across as very neutral. Like, what is the behavior? What did I observe that is troublesome? So you state that as just very factual. Without emotion, just like you state the fact, and then you describe what is the potential impact. So poise, POI, is what do you see as a downstream impact of the thing that you noticed, right? So you're just saying, like, hey, I care so much about our success. There's something I noticed. It may have a negative impact down the road. And then the S is seek to understand, but that's just my point of view. And I brought it to you because I care. But what is your point of view on this? And then you opened up a dialogue and see what they have to say about it. And then hopefully you can enact a plan. The E in poise is like, hopefully we can come to an agreement and enact a plan. So if you deliver it that way, then your boss isn't going to want to fire you. They're going to be like, wow, like maybe they don't agree with you, but at least you're going to feel confident that I saw a problem and I was brave enough to speak up. And if my boss, dismisses it, then I did my part. Or maybe if you deliver it the right way. So in terms of bravery too, like bravery is not bravado. I just don't want people to like just go in there and say, I think you're an idiot. I'm just going to be brave. Like, no, that's just being an asshole. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Go in there and do it the right way. And so this is what I do is I try to teach people ways to make their voice heard. And for the person you're talking about, that coach, that there was horrible toxicity. They found their voice, they spoke up, and it ended up causing them to leave. Now, I know in the short term that's devastating for this person, but I would be curious to ask you maybe in a year from now where they end up. Sometimes those situations of leaving a toxic environment might lead to a job that they are going to be so much happier in. If you are in a job and it's toxic and you're miserable and you wake up every Monday morning with dread and you take that negative energy, that you have at work probably home with you, I would recommend that you do something about it. Like life is too short to hate, half of your waking hours or 2/3 of your waking hours because you're in a job that is so toxic. So, I don't know, for that person that left, I don't know if you, in a couple years, they end up doing something different where they're happier. You might ask them like, are you glad that happened? And I would be pretty willing to wager that the answer would be yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's interesting. Like, so I'll take you up on that offer, of reaching out in another year. I'll find out. So in terms of like where you're at with this, okay, so bravery, we were discussing beforehand, you were in the military or in the Marine Corps. There seems to be a huge appetite, especially coming out of the States at the moment, around bravery and Navy SEALs. Why do you think there's this kind of sort of attention at the moment being put on this, and why does it why is the Navy SEALs and the Marine Corps producing people who are going out into the corporate world kind of banging their chests about bravery and...
Well, first of all, I would say for all my Navy SEAL friends out there, nothing is freaking cooler than a Navy SEAL because they are our most elite fighting force. So it's entertaining. You just want to hear the stories, right? I think you get the corporate audiences to really listen when you get someone that has that Navy SEAL background because, we're a little bit enamored by it. Now, as a United States Marine, we're cool, but we're not nearly the level of Navy SEALs, right? So,
we don't have a fighting background. We don't. What's the difference between these two?
Well, in the United States, we have 4 major branches of our service. We've got, the Air Force, the Army, the Marine Corps, and the Navy. The Marine Corps and the Navy are sister services, but our Marine Corps is our smallest, armed service, and they're known as the few, the proud. So out of all 4 of those services, now we have a Space Force too, but I think it's pretty small. The Marine Corps has a reputation of being the few, the proud, being the toughest as an entire branch. But when you look at the Navy SEALs, they have within the Navy, they are, we have special forces in all 4, but the Navy SEALs are kind of known as really the badasses. I mean, they have to go through this BUDS training. So one of our most elite fighting forces. So of course, like if they're the most effective in accomplishing challenging goals, like it makes sense to listen to them. But I think the reason why there's an appetite for it, which your question is like, why do people want to hear? I will cite some evidence here. So Ryan Nemec is one of the researchers, and he currently still works at and leads the VIA Institute. So the VIA Institute is an organization. It's free for everyone to go and learn about your strengths. So the VIA Strengths is something where people can discover their strengths and try to build their strengths. So Ryan Nemec just recently published an article, and he asked people, out of all the different character strengths out there, which one do you want to develop or make stronger? And bravery was one of the top 2, right? That people say, I want to be braver. So people recognize and say, I recognize that I let fear hold me back, and there's things that I want, but I don't go after what I want because I'm scared and I want to be braver. I just don't know how. So, I think that's why there's a lot of interest in it. And a lot of the skills that come out of bravery in general, like people setting more challenging goals, people, having transparent conversations, people believing that they can accomplish more. I mean, if we get an organization to develop those three skills, it really accelerates business results. So I think the leaders of the organization want it because they see the value it brings to, driving the bottom line. But then individuals, they actually want this. And so when they go through the program with me and they're learning it in the corporate setting, usually the stories I get coming back is not about all the corporate success. It's about they finally, decided that they were going to, run a marathon that they've always run it to, or they shared the lessons with their 10-year-old son who now is, so it's the spillover to the personal life that are the stories that I hear. So, yeah.
I'm gonna wrap in a minute here, but I'm gonna ask you one question, okay? And hopefully I'm not going too personal. But maybe you can tell me something that you're afraid of at the moment.
Oh, ooh, kind of just put me on the spot there. He didn't give me a warning with that question at all.
What are you afraid of at the moment for this
right
year?
now? I was telling you a little bit about this before the podcast. I'm taking a leap and moving in a new direction. I have a very successful leadership development company. We don't need to do any marketing. We get booked a year in advance. Like, I make good money. Like, I'm in a very comfortable place. And there's no reason for me to do anything different. Right. And this is kind of the definition of great bravery. It's like stepping out of the comfort zones. Right. So I'm in a comfortable zone. I am branching out. I went back to school. I studied it. I'm writing a book. I've never written a book before. Like, I'm fearful. Like, what if my book is a flop? Right. I mean, writing a book and putting it out there. I mean, that takes some bravery. I'm now getting on very large stages to share my message. There is people who get up on stages and get paid a lot of money. Like, they're entertainers. They're so good. So what I'm scared of right now is, I'm taking a leap and moving in this new direction. And remember I said the definition of bravery is it's taking action in the presence of fear towards something that aligns with your values or our intrinsic goals. But I really believe down in my tippy toes that developing these skills are going to help people increase their happiness and well-being and make them more successful. I know it. I'm confident because the science supports it. So I'm so passionate about sharing the message. So even though it's as scary as hell, because I haven't spoken on stages with more than a couple thousand people. I want to get on bigger stage. I'm writing a book and it's scary. So, but I just got to be confident, move in that direction. And as long as I believe that I can, my framework, my dimensions, as I believe I can, I align my actions and I use the science of brave action and I surround myself with people that have gone down the same road and can give me advice and support me on the ups and downs. I think I'll be okay. And even if it's not a pretty road, I'm going to be so much prouder of myself than if I would have decided to stay safe and stay in my comfort zone.
Well, here's hoping everything works out for you, Jill. I hope you find the bravery to do, and I'm sure it's going to be a great success. Your book said it's going to be out in July.
Yes.
The Science of Bravery. Can people go to a website to pre-order if they're interested, or what's the situation?
So if people want to find me, they can simply go to my website, jillschulman.com. Please make sure you spell it correctly. We were joking about that before the show. There's another Jill Schulman and she spells it differently. So JILLSCHULMAN. So go to my website. There's a newsletter. I'll be telling you all about the book. But the other thing I want to kind of end on, and I just saw some research on this. So remember, I'm always the research geek, is it's what do you prime yourself to do? What are all the messages that you allow in? Because it impacts you. Even, I think it's William James, the original person who started philosophy, says you are what you attend to. So, when it comes to like social media, what I want to challenge everyone to do is start following people that are going to give you messages that are going to support your personal development or your professional development, right? Follow Gerry, right? He's got great messages, so follow him out on the platforms. If you like my messages on bravery to give you a little boost of confidence, increase your courage. So like, I'm not an anti-social media person, but what I want to tell people to do is make sure that your feed is serving you so that when you do pick up the phone to scroll, you're getting all kinds of messages that help you with your mindset, because mindset matters, right? So yeah, they can find me on my website, but they can follow me on any of the platforms like LinkedIn or Instagram and any of those. And I can help be that hopefully positive, message to help you, go after your goals and have the bravery to do it.
Jill, people don't have to worry about typing in your name because I'm going to put a link to both of those in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, it's down below. If you're on Spotify, it's in the description below as well. I wish you the very best of luck. Honestly, it's been fantastic to speak with you today, and thank you so much for giving me your time.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. And I'm going to follow up with you and I'm going to ask you about that person and we'll see what the answer is.
Please do.
All right. Take care. Thank you.